leaving the UK with 5 suitcases and a 3-month-old. To many, this sounds like a nightmare. But 18 months ago, this was your guys' reality. I can't wait to get into this one. We've been trying to get a date in the diary for the best part of the year, but I'm so glad we finally locked it down and made it happen. Before we dive into this, because I think we're going to cover a lot of ground, tell us a little bit about you guys.
Do you want to start on me?
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Well,
you can start.
Yeah,
I'll fill in the gap.
Yeah, short story. Like, we both have very similar backgrounds. Like, as weird as it may sound, I believe I've met my wife 1,000 times in a different avatar. We just have these souls that we've met so many times, and we were meant to meet. And I went through my own trauma, ups and downs, bad situations. Like, I'm not going to get into it. Same as my wife. And we went on a date 7 years ago, and we've been inseparable ever since. And when you know, like, my wife didn't want kids. She didn't want to get married. At that time, I was telling myself I was going to be the drunk uncle at every party. I was 4 years single. I was in bad habits, bad situations. But I got to a point where the pain of staying the same became greater than the pain of change, if that makes sense. And when we met, we just connected, didn't we? And it was a journey. You know, we went through COVID. We built businesses together. We ended up building autonomy and freedom in life, and we ended up going on holiday a lot, and we ended up always coming to Crete. And we've been to the mid part, the west side, the east side, and was like, wouldn't it be nice to live here one day? But we were like, we want to get business right. We maybe want to have a kid. We don't know what we want to do, this, that, and the other. And then in 2023, we got married, and we went on our honeymoon, didn't we? Late 2023. And we had this conversation where we said, look, we're not going to wait for the right time, the right amount of money, business, the stars to align. Let's just try and have a baby. And lo and behold, first time we got pregnant. We didn't even realize at Christmas, while we were clinking some Prosecco together and moving out
as well,
that we were pregnant. And we moved from Essex to Suffolk, wasn't it? Suffolk, Woodbridge.
Yeah.
And we said, like, this is the best time to make it happen.
Because we moved from Essex to Woodbridge because we had the vision of moving abroad. So we wanted to test whether we could live away from family and stuff first.
And we got on all right. And it was okay, yeah. And then I said, look, let's just give it 6 months. Let's see if we can make it happen. And Dani was pregnant. I was working in the office. I was building the business. I was visualizing every single day. I was doing the mental rehearsal. And I remember it as clear as day. It was around about July time, just before Ocean was born. She was born in the August. And I was in the office, and my wife sent me a picture and a link, and I clicked this link, and it was this villa. And as I started to scroll through the images, I started to cry because I'd already seen 80% of what I saw on that app in my mind's eye. Like, for 6 months straight, I spent time mentally rehearsing, tasting, feeling, touching, like literally existing in that moment. So I knew exactly where my arrow was going to hit the target. And I was reverse engineering every single day. And I knew I had to make it happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And we would have moved there sooner, but we wanted our family to see our daughter for a while beforehand. And as soon as I saw that, I said, book it. I don't care. We'd never been to this part of Crete.
Never been
We'd
here.
never been to this area.
Never seen it. Didn't even come and view the villa. We just done
We had a
everything
WhatsApp tour, WhatsApp video tour.
FaceTime. And then we just literally just said, we love it, we'll take it.
It was fated.
And then that was it. We applied for our visas here while we were in Greece. And we've moved in, and we come with 5 suitcases.
We spent 3 months getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
The funny thing about the UK now is you can't sell anything because everything you can get is on tick. So you can't sell a sofa. You can't sell a telly. Nobody wants to pay for anything, right? So we ended up giving our next door neighbour and their kids loads of stuff, didn't we?
Which was lovely.
And then I ended up filling about 12 one-ton bags full of shit and taking it to the tip.
Like, all of our memories, like all of our things that we like was our possessions, you know, like
we had to let go of it.
We had to let go of it. And it was the most hardest thing to do. But we was like, well, look, this is a whole new chapter. We'll make new memories. We'll make more, we'll get more things, you know, not that we really need much now. We're quite, what's the word? Not fruit. Is it frugal?
Frugal.
Yeah, it's frugal.
Yeah. Fancy word for tight. Yeah. Anyway. So we became very frugal. And then literally I just said, look, we're going to go. We was going to wait a year, get everyone to know our daughter. I said, look, let's just go. And then we flew out in the November.
Yeah.
And it was stressful. It was a lot of work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we had to do 2 flights as well because we flew out of season. So we moved here in the winter.
So we had to go to Athens.
So we had to go to Athens first with a 3-month-old baby and all this stuff. It was so difficult, but the best thing we've ever done. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't look back ever.
And we just got
really
to that
wouldn't.
point in our life where, like, for anyone listening to this, it wasn't like we came here to find happiness. We were already happy.
Yeah.
Like, we created our own little bubble. We had online businesses that we built from 2019. We had financial freedom.
Yeah.
We had autonomy. We could do what we want. We were working a modest 2 to 4 hours a day, you know, handling customers and this, that, and the other. Everything was fine, but there was just something about the UK that didn't complement our values anymore. And because of Crete, we just wanted peace. We just wanted a slower life. We just
Weather.
wanted to be in the weather every day, better food,
food.
and a different environment for our daughter. And as woo-woo and tinfoil hat as it sounds, here is living in a different realm,
Yeah.
like a realm, not a world, a different realm. There's an energy, there's a presence. It's taught us to slow down. Like, I remember when we first moved here, we had to go to the shops quickly when my parents were here, and we were holding hands and power walking. We got about 20 steps in and we stopped to look at each other and thought, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we rushing? And I used to spend all my time in the UK, like 7 till 7 most days, just in the lab, working, smashing, dominating, you know, all this hustling, bro style. The rat race.
Shit.
Because at the end of the day, unless you get your 2 to 3 weeks of summer back in the UK, what else is there to do? Plus, we didn't have a daughter, you know, we had all the time on our hands.
Yeah, and also the UK had, like, no disrespect, but it has a huge drinking culture. You know, we didn't really want to be around like a huge drinking environment, even though the Greeks do like a drinking, but it's not like,
Very different.
it's very different. There's no pub culture here and stuff. It's just more of a chilled vibe here. I can't quite explain it to you. It's just a feeling. It's so different. It's just so different.
And also, I think, like, as cliche as it sounds, like, we just wanted to set a new trend for our child.
Yeah.
You know, we just wanted to break away from the
system.
usual living for the weekend, go to school, get a job, you know, be around the same people. Like, you hear this all the time on the internet, like, the best thing you can do as a youngster is move out your hometown, even if you move 100 miles away, right? Because you can reinvent your character, your self-image. You can get rid of that. You're not going to be around the same people that are putting you down or shooting down your dreams or want you to just, like, be on their level because it makes them feel good. And if you want to break away, you feel like you're being judged for it. And I totally get why and this and that and the other, but we just wanted a different life. We wanted freedom and we had that, but living here just syncs up with our values.
Yeah.
Life,
Agreed.
family, stress, peace. The list goes on. Drop the mic. There we go. Sorry, I think the laptop's overheating. I think it's all right. No, it's okay.
No,
Right,
you're
cool.
good.
It's the Ocean's air conditioning.
Oh, was
You
it?
can hear. Sorry.
Sorry, mate.
We've
Go
got
on.
the air conditioning units up on the rooftop. So Russell thought that it's the laptop with the fan, but it's not.
So why Greece? So we, like, so many people, like, leave the UK and they'll end up going to Dubai or they'll go to Bali or it's Australia. And what was it about Greece that really kind of stood out for you opposed to somewhere like Dubai, for example?
To be honest with you, we looked at many locations. We haven't been to Bali. We haven't been to Dubai, Thailand. We haven't been to any of them places, but we did contemplate them and we did think, you know, this could be better set up for our business as everybody thinks. And, you know, for us, we came to Greece, like Russell said, and on our honeymoon and holidays and stuff, but it's like I said to you before, it's a feeling. There was just a connection to Greece. I don't know whether we've lived here in a previous life or we're just old souls or what it is.
It just feels like home.
I don't know. It just feels like home. And I think people feel like that when they go to Spain or when they go to Bali or whatever it is. Like, I think everybody just has their happy place. Some people just love being in the UK, down in Cornwall, wherever it is. And I think you just have your happy place.
Yeah, we get asked this a lot, don't we?
And Greece is just a happy place. Like the islands, I wouldn't live in Athens or anything like that, but the island life is very, very well set up for us. And we love it here, don't we?
Yeah, and we thought about Dubai, like, you know, we're entrepreneurs and the typical thing is to go to Bali because you're going to save a load of tax and this, that, and the other. But
Dubai.
to be sorry, Dubai. Did I say Bali or Dubai?
You said Bali then.
Sorry, Dubai. But with Dubai, it's a concrete jungle. There's no nature. It's always hot. And once again, just didn't align with our values. Bali, okay, you'll spend like £3 on lunch, but it's always hot. It's always humid. It's a massive expat
It's like
place.
a cheaper version of Dubai.
It's very young as well. I'm 40 years old now, right? You know, and yeah, it's like a cheaper version of Dubai. Yeah,
You're
he's
not
like wine
40.
on milk, Harvey. Yeah, I'm 40, mate. I'm 41 this year.
What happened?
But here it's just it's hard to explain unless you're us, but it's like it just complements our values. And like I'm from a big family as well, and we love family. And it's like the other day we went to the Taverna and then we went to a little shop and I took my daughter in there just to walk around and this blonde lady was working there and she was like, "Oh, your daughter's so beautiful, this, that and the other." Ends up giving her a little statue of a cat for free and a little turtle that needs painting for free. And it's not like we're here to get freebies, but they're just so giving. They're so loving. Like if you've got children, you're a mother, you have a young child, you're treated like royalty.
Yeah.
They'll let you cut in front in the queue. It's the hospitality.
Yeah.
People go above and beyond the call of duty. And to give respect, like the minimum wage here isn't great, you know, very similar to the UK. They work a lot of hours, but they're just so nice. They're just so friendly. They're just so welcoming. We've met some really good people here that are going to be friends for life.
Yeah.
And if we decide to stay here permanently, which we're planning to, we're going to grow old with these people. And it's just like, we feel so safe. Like if Danny said to me like 9 o'clock at night, I'm going to go for a walk down the shop, I'd be like, go for it. I'm going to take Ocean, go for it. Like we don't feel there's any threat here, any crime. Obviously there's always bad in every place you go, but here,
But
we
compared to the UK, like
Just
we
feels like
felt
home.
like we always had to look over our shoulder. There was crime going on down our road. There was a stabbing, literally a road up from where we used to live in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex. An MP got killed by somebody.
2 weeks living there.
2 weeks living there. There's always stabbings. There's always awful things that always happening in the UK. And I'm just not down for that. I'm not down for it. I just don't want to be a part of it. You know, I know anything can happen anywhere, but when it's like on your doorstep every day and you have children, that to me is really concerning. And the police don't do anything about it. The government don't do anything about it. It's a free for all now. And that to me is not something I want to be involved in, you know?
No, of course. And it's like, you know, I mean, maybe it's getting a little bit older and wiser, but, you know, I've always been a thing of like understanding why, you know, female friends, girlfriends, whoever, wouldn't want to go and walk late at night by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even like recently that in the UK where I've started to feel a bit like, oh, look over your shoulder, whether that's paranoia, whether that's, you know, where my head's on. But I'm like, that's for me, I'm like, that's a new feeling. And well, I don't know what anyone would want with me, but I don't think anyone would, you know, but you know, you don't know what could happen or what could be there. And I'm like, that's, like I said, that's not a thing that
Take lightly.
should you know, shouldn't be happening. But
well, now you know I'm 40, Harvey. I was born in 1985. So I've lived through the 90s, the early 2000s, and, you know, everything is subjective and down to every person's individual experiences and reality. But I got to the point where I was hitting my like early to mid 30s and I was just like, where am I living? This isn't the England I once knew. And it's not about the whole immigration thing and this, that, and the other. It's just everything as a whole. It just felt more of a hustle, more of a trap, more control, more of a system. It just felt like somewhere where I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I had freedom. And then when I knew we were pregnant, I was like, I just don't want my little girl growing up in a place like this.
No.
And I don't care if I have to get on a boat or horseback every year and hop to a different island or a different country. To get my own little pocket of freedom and autonomy in life and safety is what I want. And that's the reason why we worked and sacrificed so hard to build the businesses we did. As you know, from one online coach to another, it's not an easy game. And that's why we made the sacrifice, because as cheesy as it sounds, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not just us that feels like this. Like I get hundreds of comments, hundreds of DMs every single day asking, how do I leave? I don't feel safe here. I met a lady the other day in the town. She's from London with her daughter and she said, my son's at home, he's 17. She said, every 2 minutes I'm checking him on Find My iPhone. She said, I'm just WhatsApping him, worried about where he is, making sure he's okay. She said, because London is so bad now. And I just felt so bad for her. because like you shouldn't have to feel like that with your family. Like you just shouldn't have to feel like that. It's just so sad. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like with these sort of things is like it's down to how you want to choose to deal with that. It's all very well, sitting around complaining about it, but like fundamentally, like what are you doing about it? And obviously, you guys have taken that leap and moved to Crete. Loads of my friends are moving to Australia to go to the other side of the world. People moving to Dubai, but whatever floats your boat, everyone, like you said, it has those different value structures, those different things they're interested in, those different things that work for them. Now, it's all very well just doing that, but like you said, there needs to be a level of like mechanism to make that. Like you said there about online business and financial freedom. Can you tell me a little bit more about A, what that is, and B, what that looks like for you?
So financial freedom to us I think this is just like a blanket statement for everyone. It's like we call it, if am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Should be fucking out.
We call it a fuck you fund, right? So whatever amount of money you need to live your life and do the things that you want to do in a way that isn't too extravagant, this, that, and the other, the bare minimum, we've worked out for most people is between 4,000 and 7,000 a month. To have like autonomy, to look after your family, to be able to do what you want with who you want, when you want, at any time. And for me, that's financial freedom. Then financial freedom is okay, but it's even better when you're living your life towards success, because you can have financial freedom but not living a successful life, because that leads to a lack of fulfillment. And the turning point for me was understanding what success means, which is the pursuit of a worthy ideal.
Right.
So no matter what your worthy ideal is, if you're pursuing it every day and you're building and growing on it and it's compounding, you're successful. So, for example, if Dani's only purpose in life was, which it isn't, is just to be a mother. And she's already doing that. She's a mum. She's looking after the house. She's looking after the kids, this, that, and the other. She's so successful. She's more successful than a billionaire that still cries in their fucking Lamborghini, because she's pursuing her worthy ideal. And for me, in order to get there, I needed to figure out what my values were. And I figured out what my top 3 values were. And then once I figured it out, I started to live my life through them. But in order to live my life through those values, I had to do a load of shit that I didn't value. And that's where the work comes in, because there has to be a trade-off. There has to be a sacrifice. There has to be a this or that. And I realized that my 3 highest values was family, freedom, and impact. So if I'm always leaving people slightly better off when I found them, whether that's picking up a coffee or helping a client, I'm living my life. I'm successful because I'm pursuing the worthy ideal. If I'm always creating freedom through making an impact and also doing it in a way that builds my business by design and not by default, then I'm also benefiting my family. But there was a ton of things which we can talk about that I didn't want to do, that I had to learn to do, that I had to make a sacrifice for. I had to kill off parts of myself, break myself into a million pieces and reassemble myself in order to get there. And that's why I believe that there's only a small percentage of people that actually have freedom, autonomy, and success, which means having that fun to do what you want, having the freedom in your mind and your body to live life so that you're present, because present moment awareness is one of the most precious things that we can have in life.
Agreed.
I found out a few years back ago from a mutual coach we had, Mr. Paul Moore, that men were on average present for 11 minutes a day. And my wife was surprised it was that long. So if you think men are present for 11 minutes a day, but presence is the only way you can move the needle, because you're either living in future present or past present where nothing ever happens, then it doesn't matter how much money you have or where you're living. Are you really successful? Are you living with freedom? And do you have autonomy? And that requires discipline. And that discipline comes from starving off the life and the habits and the thoughts and the feelings and the internal dialogue that's keeping you where you are, and giving birth and life and feeding the new. And that's the hardest part, because everything you have in life right now, anyone listening to this on a replay, what you see in the mirror, the relations you have, the bank balance, whatever it is just a sum of 3 things. And I had to learn this from a coach many years ago. And I remember sitting there saying to him, like, I'm not happy with my life. I'm single. I don't know where I'm going. I want to have freedom. I want to make all this money. And he said, Russ, if you had the skills, the beliefs, and the character of the version of you that has all you want, you'd already have it. And I wanted to punch him through the Zoom screen. It was the hardest pill to swallow. And I sat with it for a day or two and I meditated and journaled. I was like, that motherfucker's right. Because if I had the skills and the character and the belief systems, then I'd have it. So I started to look inwards rather than outwards, because I was always treating myself like a giant iPhone. I was downloading new apps every day to try and change my life. But I kept neglecting that notification to upgrade and update the iOS, because we have our own internal iOS, which is an operating system. And this operating system is unconscious. And if you do not make the unconscious conscious, it will drive all your actions and habits, and you'll call your life and outcomes fate. And when you don't realize that, which is not your fault because of the conditioning and environment that you're brought up in, what else can you do? But until you listen to a podcast like this, or someone comes in your life and just gives you that message, now it's all your fault. Now you realize there's a pattern. Now you realize there's environment. And as soon as I got that awareness, I was like, shit, now it's time, because it's all my fault. I have all the responsibility. I'm my biggest problem. I'm my biggest solution. So I started switching from seeing disaster to opportunity, problems to solutions, negatives to positives. I started to do a self-audit on myself. I started to look at myself from a 1,000-foot view, and I looked at every single belief that I had around money, love, success, happiness, and I started to see which ones were serving me and not. Because your belief systems, Harvey, are so fucking powerful, you cannot act out of alignment with them. We all remember the kid at school that was told they were stupid by the parents, the teachers, the kids. What happens between when they were told and test day? They failed a fucking test to prove their beliefs right unconsciously. It's like if you support Arsenal, you can't wear a Tottenham shirt for 2 weeks. Why can't you? Because you have a belief attached to it. But your beliefs aren't fact. My beliefs aren't fact. My beliefs aren't true. Your beliefs aren't true. They're just true to ourselves. And your beliefs either empower you or disempower you. And they're attached to identities and egos, and the egos give you contrast. And the contrast allows you to go from chaos to this makes sense. It allows you to see the truths and the false, the rights and the wrongs, the ups and the downs. But sometimes we create these egos attached to identities to create these belief systems that keep us stuck because they justify our feelings. They justify our stories. And I was like, shit, I need to invert every belief. Whatever the belief says that doesn't serve me, I need to believe the opposite, because I unconsciously practiced it for 30 odd years. And then I had to look at my character. And you remember learning from Paul about the traits of the greats, right? Looking at 3 people you admire, looking at their traits when you've embodied yourself, because you can't see or perceive a trait in someone you don't have from within, because one drop in the ocean, what is it? It's the fucking ocean. So I was like, what are these traits? So instead of studying like Alex Hormozy or Paul Moore or all these people, no, I started to study the greats. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Elon Musk, Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Like, why should I study like 20K, 100K a month entrepreneurs when I can study the top elites? And I started to see a trend of 4 traits that they all displayed. Focus, right? Focus. That means you're able to do something for a period of time without getting distracted. Some people, and I used to be one of these, you switch on the car, the Spotify comes on, you don't like the song, you skip it. If you can't see the rest of that 45 fucking seconds of that song, and you're trying to create a business to make a change in the world, you've got other problems to sort out, mate. If you can't get on your laptop and watch a video for 10 minutes that's going to change your life, and you want to skip through, focus is your issue. Because we have focus hours and we have focus units. Me and you could read a book for an hour, Harvey, and you could have 50 focus units per hour. I could have 10. You read 5 extra pages. Then it's discipline, doing the shit you don't want to do it when you have to. That's the biggest time. Then it's consistency. I know it's an old fable, we're probably getting people to suck eggs, but consistency is key. Just means doing the small things, setting a standard instead of an expectation, meaning you set the bar low so you can raise it later. And then the last one is emotional regulation. Emotion doesn't belong in business. It's data over emotion, facts over feelings. If you're focused, if you're disciplined, if you're emotionally regulated and you're consistent, and you invert every belief you have around money, love, and success, because whether you believe you can or can't do something, which was what Henry Ford said, you're always 100% right. The skill part, easy. I don't even need to talk about it. ChatGPT, YouTube can teach you that. You can learn to get a 6-pack and become a billionaire on YouTube. How many people in your area are driving Bugattis with 6-packs, Harvey?
None.
Exactly. And that's why. Because if you swap bodies and lives with these rich and famous, you'll fuck it up in 6 months. Because it's all about identity. Identity drives everything. It's like they say you can't out-train a bad diet. You can't outwork a shitty identity. And it took me so long. And I was talking to you before we started the podcast about this book, Power versus False. I was false in business. I was false in life. I was false in relationships. Love, business, no matter what it is, it's like a fart. If you force it too much, it leads to shit. And when you switch from forcing to attracting, which comes from embodiment and it comes from being, not doing. Being, not doing. Like I said about the iPhone, stop downloading the apps to change your life, upgrade the iOS. Make the unconscious conscious, because otherwise it will drive your life, your habits, and your actions, and you'll just call it fate. Rant over.
That's why I married him.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I didn't need to get a word in edgeways there, because that was incredible. Honestly, there's so much we can get into on that. But I think that the big thing here is around, like, trying to understand that. It's something that Paul used to teach us, is like understanding what you're looking for as well. Okay, you want success. What does that look like? Not the preconceived, what it would look like if you saw it on here. Like, what does it actually mean to you? And that's very, very different to anyone else. Like, crazy example of seeing something like Clarkson's farm, for example. People, plowing fields, planting crops. Okay, there's a lot of politics around that, but fundamentally, there's some people there that, like, that is their complete and utter life's purpose. It's exactly what they want to be doing, and whatever the balance sheet says at the end of the year, they can still be successful to themselves. They don't have to be driving around in the Bugattis or the Lamborghinis or the Ferraris. It's really understanding what that is, and I think you get, like, that's a massive part of, like, the hustle culture, is like, no one cares unless you're driving a Ferrari. Oh, if I'm going to cry, at least I'm crying in a Ferrari. Like, I get the sentiment, but, like, yeah, you'd rather be cutting about in a Peugeot 106.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes from experience, right? Like I used to say this all the time, like, because I was a personal trainer 20 years ago. I qualified in 2006, Harvey, as a personal trainer, right? Okay, yeah. When I used to do personal training in London, only people could afford me that could afford a cocaine and PT, right? Because that's how old school it was. It wasn't like something you could just dish out for. But when I first started in personal training, I did everything for success for the wrong reasons. It was for external validation, not internal validation. I had egocentric goals instead of ethnocentric goals. But this was all because of little Russ. And this is what I teach in my program, is I teach people integration, which means integrating the 1.0 and the 2.0 version of themselves. So as much as you need to make the unconscious conscious to change your life, you also need to create the adult to protect the child. Not the adult in me to protect my child, the adult in me to protect my little child. So we all have this version of us between the age of like 2 and 7 or whatever it may be. And that version is the 1.0. That version is linked to the animal brain. That version wants comfort, validation, and it's going to fucking kick and scream every time you try and make a change. So I started learning about shadow work, and this is how I actually started to change my life and go from having feast and famine, highs and lows, ceilings and floors, to making my floors my ceilings and the other way around. Because what ended up happening was, to go a bit deep, like when I was a kid, my parents divorced when I was 8. And then 2 months afterwards, the day after my 9th birthday, the 28th of September, I fell 40 foot out of a tree. So I'm the guy that fell out the ugly tree and learned to hit all the branches on the way down and tell the tale. I lost the kidney, so I only have one kidney. I was put on dialysis. I lost the use of my legs. Doctors told me you'll never be fit and healthy, this, that, and the other. I spent so much time in the Royal London Hospital. I spent the next year and a half at school in primary playing cards with the dinner ladies every time there was a lunch and break, because my mum wanted to wrap me in cotton wool. So now I'm losing school time. I'm told I'm going to be nothing. I'm never going to be fit and strong. I'm chasing my father's love, and he never gave me it. So all I ever did in life was, every action I did was to get external validation. And if I couldn't get it from my father, I had to get it from my friends. And what ended up happening is, I don't know if you've heard this phrase before, but for most people, they don't realize that I'm not who you think I am, Harvey. I'm not even who I think I am. I am who I think that you think that I am. I'll say it one more time. Yeah, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not even think I am who you think I am. I am who I think that you think that I am. So that what ends up happening is you become this chameleon. I became this social butterfly. I ended up having loads of groups of friends and family, but never fully fitted in. And then I ended up getting to the ripe old age of about 28, 29, in 30 grand's worth of debt, depressed with a drinking problem, thinking I don't even know who I am. And it's because of little Russ was controlling the entire show. Because every single time, and this was up until recently, every single time I hit a 10K month, little Russ went, "We've got what we need. Everyone thinks we're the bollocks. We've told everyone how much money we've made. We want to get all this kudos. And even if we don't get it, we can calm down now. So what happens is 3-4 months later, without you realising it, you hit back to 4K a month. So you go from all this positive energy and pride to anger, guilt and shame and negative energy. And if you do that over and over and over for 12 months, you average about 7K a month and you're exerting all this pointless energy. And I was like, how do I get out of this? How do I break the cycle? So this may sound a bit weird and woo-woo for people listening, but back in 2024, before we moved, including my mental rehearsal, I had a chat with little Russ. And I closed my eyes and I meditated and I saw him on that hospital bed in Royal London Hospital. And I was like, you're right, Russ. I might get emotional now, I can feel it. But I was like, you're right, little Russ. He was like, no, I'm scared. Like, my dad don't love me, I'm pathetic, I can't walk, I'm this, that, and the other. And I was like, dude, you don't even fucking know. You're going to be so fucking proud of the man you're going to be. You've got a wife, you've got a daughter, you run a business, you make impact in the world every day, you're a good person, you have a good heart, you have good people around you, you've got fuck all to worry about. You don't need people's validation. You can stand in your power. You're proud of you. And it took me about 6 months until I entered back into that meditation. I said, you're right, little Rusty, when I'm fucking awesome. And I was like, what have you learned? He went, I'm going to tell you. He went, you don't have to worry. I know this. I know that. I am this. I am power. I am source. I am God. I am the universe. I don't need all this external validation. So guess what ended up happening? Instead of this feast and famine like this, it went like a diagonal. And if you remember learning about the general adaptation syndrome in your personal training qualifications, right? Do you remember that graph where you enter a stressor when there's a little bit of a lack in progress? And then when you enter the stressor, you dip in performance, then you upgrade. And then you dip in performance, you upgrade. But when you look at the dip in performance, it's higher than when you were at your strongest before. Do you remember that? Right?
Yeah.
And this is what happens with shadow work. So when you go with shadow work, you go, my God, my ceiling used to be 10K, now it's 4. Now it's a floor. So now my floor's 10K and my ceiling's 20. And then it goes up like this, a constant growth. And this is the thing that entrepreneurs miss, and what I miss for so long, is that we're just trying to force business, trying to force change, when if you start going inwards and working on the character, the identity, the 1.0 version of you, upgrading to the 2.0, you do less and you make more. You make more progress, you make more connections, you make more impact, and then in return, you make more money.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say about the shadow work, because it's something that I've started to like dabble and look into a little bit. And I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago where she does a lot of stuff around that, and it's that really opens my eyes to what that is and what it can be and it can do. And there's parts of it that sound horrendous. You know, going through a grief cycle of, you know, losing parts of you, like having to kill parts of you off, but then also the payoff of what it can be, like what the outcome can be, you know, like the payoff massively outweighs. And, you know, it's something that I've thought about every day since. It's really strange that you say that now, because yeah, it's something that's coming up a lot, certainly for me right here, right now. So with your whole journey, and I think certainly obviously speaking from my point of view, there's a lot of this financial freedom, online business, you know, we get sold this dream, especially as like a 27. I feel like I've been stung with that a few times. You get sold this dream, and then you're going to be on a beach in Bali or wherever it is. You know, you work an hour a day from your laptop. But like you were saying there, that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen straight away. So you said about sacrifice. You said about the things that you had to kind of give up along the way. So tell me a little bit more about kind of like the practicalities of actually building a system to create.
Yeah, like it's a cheesy saying, but they say the dream's free and the hustle's sold separately, you know? And I use this analogy with my clients all the time when they first enter my program. And I say, you know, there's this guy, he hates his job. He wears a stupid brown suit every day. You know, he drives his rusty car. And then one day his car breaks down. He goes to work and then he's got to get the bus home. It's raining. And then as he's waiting for the bus, there's a hole in it. It's leaking on him. He hates his life. And he's like, I just want a different life. And this is what we want. We sometimes get married to the outcome and not the process. And what happens is before the bus comes from his life he's been living for decades, a Bugatti pulls up, a guy gets out, a leggy blonde. He opens up the boot and there's a briefcase, and for some reason it's made of glass, it's got $1 million in it, and the guy goes, oh man, I'd love his life. And as soon as he says I'd love his life, his phone vibrates in his pocket like a taser. It's like, oh my God. And then he opens it up and he goes, I've got 30,000 emails. And he starts to read these emails, and these emails are every sacrifice, every piece of hardship, every person he's lost, every part of his identity that he had to destroy in order to get to where he is today. And after reading 3 to 4 emails, he deletes them all, goes, fuck that, gets the bus home and goes back to work the next day. And that's what business is that it requires you to change. Growing a business and financial freedom is personal development in disguise. It's spiritual. It will expose every pain and weakness that you have in your life. But the one thing that is amazing and advantageous about this for everyone is that every system that you see there being sold to you online works. Everything works. We have an old mentor making 2 to 3 million every single year just through email marketing alone. I have a business coach at the moment that made $2,015,000 in the first quarter this year, all organically without a single ad. You can run VSLs, you can post content, you can run ads. It doesn't matter. The main thing that matters the most is that you stay consistent and you get addicted to the fundamentals and not the shiny objects. Because within the next 6 to 12 months, you can make a success of it, but everyone else around you that's starting at the same time as you is going to quit within 6 to 12 months. And the way that I explain the fundamentals of business is that if you used to watch Only Fools and Horses, maybe you didn't, Harvey, because of the age gap, right? But there's a scene in Only Fools and Horses where there's a guy called Trigger and he's a road sweep. And they're in the pub and they're celebrating 15 years of him being a road sweep. And he's like, you see this broom, guys? I've had this broom for 15 years. It's had 4 new handles and 7 new heads. And that was the joke, because it's not the same broom, but it does the same job. And most people, they have a funnel, whether it's organic or paid, outbound or inbound, whatever it is. And if it doesn't work within 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months, they get shiny object syndrome and they pivot. And that's what happens every single time.
Happens way too much. All
the time. Like, we do this for a living. We help people do it. We see people come and go. And I say, get addicted to the fundamentals. Work on your character, work on your identity, figure out what needs to change within you to get the thing that's happening without. Because if you don't, it's not going to work. Because content, client attraction, client acquisition, it's very simple. It's very easy if you believe it to be so. But if you don't, then you create a different feeling, a different emotion, different options or lack of options, lack of decisions. You get analysis paralysis. You feel like an imposter. You attach to the outcome. You don't invest in the process. All of these things happen and it cascades down to you going through the emotional cycle of change. Because when you start something, the emotional cycle of change, for anyone that doesn't know, is I like to use the analogy of weight loss. Let's just say I'm a keto coach and you hire me, Harvey, right? You've seen all my keto meals and I'm eating steak and butter and avocado and prawns. You see all my client testimonials. Everyone's ripped to shit, thick skin shredded, as they say, right? And you're like, let's go, keto. So what happens when you start? You get this uninformed optimism. Uninformed optimism. You're like, this is going to be the bollocks. I'm going to be shredded. Give it like 3 to 4 weeks. You're like, I miss bread and alcohol. Right? So now you get this informed pessimism. So you either stay the course or you don't, and 99% of people don't, okay? 99% of people don't. So what ends up happening from there? You go, I'm going to try carnivore instead. Uninformed optimism, informed pessimism. Let me try paleo. Let me try shakes. Let me try Ozempic, blah, 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 blah. And then you don't do nothing for a while, and you go in this bottom part, which is the valley of despair. And that's where most people are. But if you can just give something long enough and get addicted to it enough, which is the fundamentals, you come out the other side and you get a result. You get an outcome. You move the needle. You see some change. And then when you start to see that, you go from informed pessimism to informed optimism. I can do this. This is going to work. This is good for me. And then you reach success. But the one thing and the missing link from all of that is understanding why we stop. And it's to do with neuroplasticity. So we fire and wire similar neurons in a similar pattern in our brain every single day. It's like the flight path from New York to Tokyo or from Gatwick to Crete. And if you drive or fly the same route every day, say you drive the same route to work, and then you come home one day, and as you're about to drive home, there's roadworks. What do you feel? Stress, resistance, agitation. But because you have no other choice, what do? You drive the opposite way. But in life, we have a choice. We can pick up our phone, we can do something else, we can distract ourselves, mental masturbation. So when we try and do something new, like a new strategy, content, getting in front of camera, sending DMs, whatever it is, we start to feel this agitation. And what this agitation does to us is it blinks off a red light. but really it's a green light. It's like, this is good for us, because otherwise you're kind of giving yourself Stockholm syndrome, because every time, like you're abusing yourself, every time you go, this don't feel right, I'm agitated, I'm stressed, you go, I'm just going to take the same neuro pathway, I'm going to take the same flight path and doom scroll or quit or pivot or do something else. And what ends up happening is the brain says, this is good for us, right? Mm-hmm. But if you do the opposite and you just push through and say, I'm just going to stay on alive a bit longer, I'm going to push a bit more, I'm going to send a few more DMs, I'm going to post a bit of content, I'm going to speak from authenticity, I'm going to say something polarizing. Guess what happens? You fire and wire a new pathway and the brain says the same thing. This is good for us. So you've got, this is good for us over here, stay stuck. This is good for us, move forward. And it all comes down to living in the unknown. Because if you always do what's known, you'll always get what's known. If you always react to the same things, respond to the same things, the internal dialogue, the same beliefs, the same pathway, you don't go to the gym, whatever it is, you're just going to get what's known. And people are scared to live in the unknown. And I understand that because they're not able to get out of living in the future present or the past present. If you get in present moment awareness and you say, oh, I'm just going to do it. Because when you read this book, Power versus Force, you'll see the map of consciousness and there's levels to it, right? And we've learned this from Paul, our old mentor, right? Life either happens to you, by you, for you, or through you. To you, shit. By you's effort. For you and through you's the best one. How do you get from by you to for you, right? So there's all these little levels of emotion. There's like pride. Pride's a sin. Pride ain't a good emotion to have, right? Then you've got anger and fear and guilt and shame. To get over that line, to step into the unknown, to create a new neural pathway, to fire and wire a new link, it takes courage. That is the emotion from fear, anger, shame, guilt, whatever it is, to pride. Now we get over in courage. And you just have to have the courage to face what you fear, to face what you feel resistance. You have to get addicted to pain, but see it in a positive way. Because all pain is when resistance meets effort. You've got the resistance, you try to put the effort, you feel pain. But if you can look at that pain, instead of it being this emotional thing, and you see it like it's a sword, right? And in front of you is a dragon, then you can grab that sword and you can slay it. It's going to be hard. You might have a pocket knife at first. If you do it again and again, you get a fucking lightsaber. You get an AK-47 next. You get a bazooka, a nuclear bomb, a laser from the satellites, wherever they are, right? That's what happened. You just have to do it over and over and over again. And not to get too deep, take it from someone that had an alcohol problem for 10 years, that was single for 4, said he was going to be the drunk uncle at every party, that literally sold himself out on having anything in life that he wanted to. Love, money, success, freedom. But the pain of staying the same became greater than the pain of change. And somebody handed me a book and said, this is what you need to read because you're negative. Your life ain't going where it wants to go. And I was like, all of this like woo-woo, hairy-fairy shit, you know, I don't believe in it. I was like, what else have I got to lose? Like, I've hit rock bottom. I've got nothing else to show for it. I don't like my life. I want to stop whinging and moaning and blaming and complaining. So let's just give it a go, because if not, I'll just go back to what I was doing. And it all paid off. And if anyone listens to this, like, you are your own limitation, but you are your own solution. Like, I'm not going to break into a song, but with every breath that you take is a chance to start again.
Which book was that you handed at that point?
It was by Dr. John D. Martini. Okay. The Riches Within, Your 7 Hidden Treasures. I had this friend called Aleem that was an NLP coach, neuro-linguistic programming. He worked at a teaching college with me. So before I really went into entrepreneurship in 2025, 2 years prior to that, I got into teaching fitness qualifications. And I was teaching adult learners and they were all on benefits. So anyone watching this outside the UK, they got some kind of welfare. And I was teaching 8 and 12-week courses in fitness, nutrition, sports therapy, CPD, you name it. And the reason why I was teaching, because I sold myself out on the dream of making money from fitness, right? How weird is that? But because my students were, for lack of a better word, I was Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds every day, but not as attractive, right? Or Coach Carter, you know, the movie. Like, I was in South East London, North London, Kensington Olympia, Finsbury Park, teaching adult learners. So I had to give them a lot of enrichment. because I was like, look, in order to get you on my side, I need to teach you a little bit about mindset, personal development and all this. But the one thing is I wasn't practicing it myself, because I was saying to these students, if you get out of bed on time, if you finish the calls, if you don't try and beat me up or anyone else on the calls or steal anything or stab anyone, you're going to have a career as a personal trainer where you can do whatever you want in life. And after I said that spiel, the last time I said it, I sat behind and marked papers for 2 hours. And I got a 2-hour train journey home. And I remember sitting on that train going, when the fuck did I sell out my dream? And I started to get really negative. I started to become a bit of a victim. And Aline, I love you, brother, if you listen to it, it was like, Russ, like, you're a good dude, but you're just not treating yourself well. Read this book. And I was like, man, like, I just think that's all it just doesn't work. It's not for me. You just need to do more shit to change your life. And I read each of the 7 chapters of the 7 hidden treasures. And I remember, for anyone that's old enough to remember, after reading the first chapter, it was like watching a football match on a HD telly when you've only ever watched SD. Do you remember when you watched your first HD football game and you could see the blades of grass, the sweat on their face, the logos, right? And I was like, I'm seeing the world differently. And then I saw it in 1080p, then 4K, then 8K. And I just couldn't find a negative in anything. There was only positives. There was only solutions. There was only opportunities. And I changed my attitude. Because one of the biggest lessons I got was when I was very young and I worked as a foreign exchange broker, right? And I learned for about nearly a year how to not live my life, all right? I wasn't throwing midgets at dart balls like in The Wolf of Wall Street, but it was pretty colourful, working as a broker in London. And I remember my first day as a broker, we got there an hour early, and he said, I want to teach you all a lesson. And he said to me and the guys in the team, there was about 16 of us, he said, I want you to write down 1 to 26 and then A to Z. So 1 equals A and then B equals 2. So they're worth that amount of units, right? C equals 3. And he said, I want you to shout out one by one what it's going to take for you to make a success as a broker. Some guy went hard working. So it was like take H and A and R and D and then add all the numbers together, come out as 82. So it was like 82% of it's hard work. What next? Disciplined. And that was about 73%. And none of us got it. But if you take the numbers 1 to 26, the letters A to Z, and you write the word attitude, comes out exactly as 100. And if you change your attitude, everything else in your life can change because you shift the lens that you view the world through, which is in a fancy way of saying shifting your paradigm.
Amazing. And what were those shifts in attitude for you? What was which one was like the biggest bang for your buck?
The biggest bang for my buck? It's a very good question. It's a very, very, very good question. I've never, ever been asked that before. I think it was just remembering how powerful I am. It was just remembering, because I spent so much of my life shrinking myself, people pleasing, but people always said I had something about me that was special.
That's what I said.
But I never, my wife said the day she met me, like, she's my biggest fan, my biggest cheerleader. I am where I am today because of her love and support, and I'm forever eternally grateful. When I first met my wife, she was everything I wanted in a woman. I was half what she wanted in a man. So I had to become that version. I had to become the mirror, but that's another story. But I think it was just reminding myself that if I put my mind to it, I can do anything, because I'd already created so much shit in my life. And because I blamed everything and everyone else for it, like the reason why I was single, the reason why I was in 30 grand's worth of debt, the reason why I had a drink problem, I was anxious, I was depressed, was because of everyone else. This person treated me badly. This person did this, and the government and opportunities. And it was just coming to that realization that if I can just create all of this without realizing it, what would actually happen if I put a bit of focus and attention on changing it? And I was like, cool. And I know this might sound a bit woo-woo and a bit spiritual, and you probably don't get this much on the podcast, or maybe you do, but I started to shift my focus and attention on meaning of God. You're probably not expecting that.
Yeah.
But I started to realize that I was God, I was the universe, and I was source. And this is what I truly believe. I believe we all are. I believe we have a soul, and I believe it's all within us. And I believe that we are the co-creators of everything in life. Because I can prove that I've created more today than anything else. I can create a sandwich. I can create love. I can create a smile. I can create laughter. I can create impact. I can create emotions. And the whole purpose of life is to create, right? Evolution. And death is just completion. And there's much more work to do. So I was like, well, if I'm this co-creator and it's within me, and I have this soul that can actually control this meat sack and brain of mine because I have a voice I can hear without opening my mouth. I can hear things by covering my ears. I can see the present, past, and future without opening my eyes in my mind's eye. I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I realized what I was, because the I am is the I am. I am just the I am. And it's quite hard to comprehend for most people.
Yeah.
But you are that I am. You are just consciousness. You are just light and code. And you can create anything if you just stop severing your heart from your head. We get in this head too much and we think about too much and we get too logical when we have this chamber and vortex inside of us that has endless consciousness and endless possibilities that doesn't really have much else to say other than just act on your highest interest every single day. And if you act on your highest interest every single day without caring about the outcome, and it's just about the being and not the doing, then who knows where it could go. And then when it comes to risk, well, the day you were born, you took your first breath was the riskiest day of your life because you ain't getting out alive. So why not just take more risks? Why not just live your highest purpose?
Yeah.
Because I read in a book somewhere, and this might have been the turning point for me, is that just imagine when you die, Harvey, and you go up to the pearly gates or Valhalla, that's where I want to go with the beard, right? And before you go in, a little note slips under and you read it and it says, Harvey, this is what you could have been. This is what you could have done. This is what you could have changed. This is what you could have created. What the fuck happened? Or that note gets slipped under before you go through the gates and it says, Harvey, life, ... fucking completed it, mate. Because the only two people you need to make proud in this life is just the younger and older version of you, no one else. Make that young version of you proud every day because you're living life with purpose instead of pleasure. And don't make the older version of you live with regret. And I learned that very early on. My mum has always worked 2 to 3 jobs, always been on minimum wage. She was a single parent and she worked in an old people's home for most of my childhood. So during the summertime, until I was old enough and the holidays, she couldn't afford a babysitter, so I used to go to work with her. And I had the privilege of spending like 2 weeks every 6 weeks with a bunch of old people. And I'd spend them with 2 different types of old person. The first one was all the shoulda, woulda, couldas. I wish I did this, you should do that, take every opportunity. And then there was a second one of like, I live life to the fullest. Before my husband died, we had the best time and the opportunities and the holidays, and we did everything. So I kind of learned early from that of like, just make every day count. Every day is a blessing. And when you realize how powerful you are, to go back to the song, with every breath you take, you can start again. You can just reinvent your character. Like you live in a giant simulation for what it's worth. And if you had a skill tree, like what skills need improving? Where can you put your focus? Like if you look at like Eddie Hall went all in on strength. The rest of his skills tree was crap. So he became the strongest man in the world.
Yes, you just double down on your skills.
Some people have an IQ. Yeah, exactly. Some people have an IQ of like 180. I have a client, Rebecca. She has an IQ of 172. She went all in on that. And it's like, where are you growing your skill tree? Where are you growing your character? How do you perceive yourself with your self-image? And what do you want to change? Because you can do it at any given time if you're willing to make the sacrifice, if you're willing to do the work. And just one thing on the power wheel, as I say this to my clients all the time, is that you could be in the desert, Harvey, and you're about to die of dehydration. I say, here's your solution. And you say to me, Russ, you couldn't open the bottle for me, could you? And that's where most people get it wrong. And I'm like, no, motherfucker, you open it yourself. Because you can give people the solution and the roadmap, but they're just not willing to do the work. And I understand why, because of our conditioning, our programming, our environment. But if you're willing to strip things back and start building yourself up, like I am proof that a guy from Essex that was born in Basildon, which we called Basil Dump, you know, from a single parent background with alcohol problems and not looking after myself and being down and out, can be now on a podcast with you, Harvey, in Crete while my daughter's asleep downstairs with my beautiful wife, working 2 to 3 hours a day, living life to the fullest. Anyone can do it.
You keep leaving me speechless. Because usually I'll chirp up with the next question. I'm just a bit like, whoa, okay. For someone who's struggling to find their purpose, you've mentioned this a few times about purpose. If someone's struggling to find that, what would your kind of advice, what would you be thinking about them, looking to kind of pursue something? How would you help someone find their purpose? What questions would you ask?
Yeah, I mean, It's a good question. I mean, to be honest with you, like, I think people put too much emphasis on finding their purpose in the beginning, because some people don't actually know what their purpose is because they haven't spent enough time trying things. So I would say because the funny thing is that I didn't know what my purpose was until about 5 to 6 years ago, and I'm 40. But I did spend a lot of time trying things. And I think for most people, they get in their head so much thinking that I have to do something I'm passionate about. I have to find my purpose. I have to find my calling. And I just say, just go and try a load of things. Like, look at life as like ice cream. Like, why just say I need to find a flavor I'm going to stick to for the rest of my life? Just try them all. Try Tutti Frutti, rum and raisin. Why not? And then stick to one flavor for the rest of your life. Like, as much as I love that question, at the same time, I find that people will find their purpose by trying more things.
Or just letting it come to you naturally, because I that's what happened with me. When I become a mum, I was just satisfied with being a mum and just coasting along in life. I was always told that I was stupid and that I'd never amount to be anything. So I just accepted that as my reality, really. And I just, yes, I've created businesses with Russ and stuff and got certified in different areas. But when I had Ocean, I then started to get a bit switched on, a bit turned on, if you like, by different digital products and creating content. And I started doing a lot of content for Russ because I could do that in my spare time. And then I started to find my passion through creating content. And that has only been for the past year, I would say, maybe a year and a half, that I've started to develop that in 35 years of my life, that I've always been creative. But in school, you can't be creative. You've got to get grades. You've got to think just in the box. You can't go outside of the box. So I feel like people like me was always shut down with creativity. You weren't allowed to be creative. Creativity doesn't get you money. Creativity doesn't allow you to have a career unless you're Van Gogh or a fucking artist or of some sort, But yeah, like all this time, I just really enjoyed creating stuff. And then I just felt like, well, I have nothing to give, I have nothing else to give now. And then creating content, like I've gained 10K followers in like a month just by being authentically me. And that's how I've discovered my true passion, just by being authentic and creating content that I fucking love. I love it. I love it. I now get brand deals. I've now got collaboration deals here. I've now got so many people that stop me in the street here and say, Dan, I love your content. Like, it's amazing. And it just reaffirms, like, yes, I am doing the right thing. I'm doing the thing that I absolutely love now because I just let it come to me naturally. I think I always knew it was there, but just how do you turn that into something? And I was always that person that was pessimistic about things and wasn't sure if it, if it's going to work out, or is this real? Is this true? Until I just thought, well, don't put any fucking expectation on it. Don't put anything, just don't put anything on it and just see what happens. And now look, like life can change very, very quickly when you lean into a passion. And if you don't have a passion, then just I don't know, lean into the things that make you happy, really.
Yes. That's what I was going to say. I think it's like a couple of things. Like, number one, it's like people just don't know how to surrender.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to surrender and just say, I'm going to let everything else be outside of my control so I can regain control. Yeah. And people also think that they need to have one specific purpose or thing that makes them successful. Like, you may look at us right now and be like, oh, Russ's purpose is to inspire others and is to grow businesses and impact the world and help people create financial freedom. Yeah, okay, that may be one of my purposes, but my main purpose is raising my daughter and having a loving wife and a marriage that breaks every mold and every stereotype and model that I've been taught since growing up. Yeah. To break the generational curses, as cheesy as it sounds, and set a new trend. So then I think that is potentially my main purpose.
Yeah.
So I have other purposes that lead to me living a fulfilled life. So I have them, as much as people think like, oh, you've got this business and da-da, that's probably a side quest. Like, the main quest is, my flex isn't a Lambo. My flex is like going for lunch at 2:00 on a Tuesday. It's waking up. My alarm clock is my daughter singing on the little speaker. I hear, yeah, da, 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 da. And then wheels on the bus, da, da, da. And that, to me, is like, you've done it. Like anything else, money, success, podcasts, accolades, that's all a bonus.
Yeah, cool.
Like, I feel, and it's once again, it goes from external to internal validation. It's like, are you just feeling in lack because of what everyone else has? Like, you can just, this is the thing, right? Like, I learned this from Joe Dispenza, right? People want to feel wealthy, but they need to have the zeros and ones in the bank account to feel it. People want to feel love, and they need someone to show them love. But they never have it, and if they do, they never can hold it for long enough. You have to create the feeling state now, where your predominant feeling states, the emotions that you feel, the labels that you assign to whatever it is that gives you the feeling and emotion that you can explain through anger, love, whatever it is what you're attracting on a daily basis. And if you can change your feeling state, and if you can pretend, like, look at it from this example. In order to go to sleep, you have to pretend you're asleep, right?
Yeah.
So you have to fake it till you make it, which is called living in the end, living as if the wish is already fulfilled. So if you have an outcome in a year's time, you realize and visualize what that version of you looks like, what they sound like, how they act, how they think, what their handshake is, their posture, their energy levels, their diet. And then guess what? You live it tomorrow. So instead of working towards the outcome, you live from the outcome. Instead of working towards the end, you live through the end, from the end. And guess what? That means tomorrow you are it by 10%. Or 1%. And imagine that you just become that version of you and you fake it by 1% tomorrow. And you do that for 100 days straight. That means you're 100% better. That means you twofold yourself. And you go from 1.0 to 2.0. And anyone can do that. Imagine that right now I'm talking to you and you're my coach, Harvey. And I'm like, you're my relationship coach. And I'm like, I'm just angry, pissed off husband all the time. And I just want to be more of a loving husband, right? Just imagine this scenario. And you could go, right, here's this plan, Russ, 6 months of work. And by the time you've done this 6 months of all these tactics and all these things and all these sacrifices, you'll get to the end of your Everest and we'll go, you are a loving man. Or I can just wake up tomorrow morning and say, I love you. Guess what? I'm now a loving man. That's it. And then you just do it every day because we're taught the wrong way to set goals and outcomes. So we have these 3 columns, column on the right, middle and left. So we're taught, make a list of all the shit you want. Do you want to go check on Ocean or you right?
I'll get her in a minute.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So make a list of what you want. I want more love, more sex, more this, more money, more blah, blah, blah. And then you go, cool. When do you want it by? 90 days. 90 days is the cliche, isn't it? 90 days, 10K. They're the 2 buzzwords, right? So I want it in 90 days. So what do we do with the middle column? Well, what do I need to do? Oh, I need to get up at 5 a.m. I need to work out. I need to eat clean. I need to send 100 DMs a day, post content. But in between that goal, from day 1 to day 90, what are we presented with? Challenge. What happens when you challenge, Harvey? We know this, right? You don't rise to your highest expectations, you fall to your lowest level of training, right? So what happens is you get to day 90 and you've only achieved 70% of the outcome. So you feel disheartened, you're not really that much into it, be like, well, do you know what? I'll give it another go. And even though consciously you feel like you're giving it 100%, you're giving it 50. And then what happens? Now we're in Q3, you give it 30. Now we're in Q4, you give it 40. And then a year later, you're just coasting along and you're just telling yourself you can't create it, because you're going through feast and famine. So now let's delete column right, let's delete column middle, and just create this column on the left. And this column on the left is just got 2 words, and the most powerful 2 words you'll ever say in your life. And if you change these 2 words, you'll change your world. What are they?
Yeah.
I am. Exactly, brother. I am. So make a list of the I am. So if I want more money, I'm successful. If I want to make more impact, I'm impactful. If I want to have more loving relationships, I am loving. If I want to look a different way, I am healthy. Now the middle section becomes an action each day that version of you does that's linked to the I ams. And then you add in a second and a third and a fourth as you go along. And then the outcome becomes inevitable and the outcome becomes quicker. And the outcome you see and feel within a few days. And you're like, I just want more of this. And this is why I say to every one of my clients and everyone I speak to is everything we do is driven by identity. Yeah. You change the identity. Don't set a 10K goal a month. Set a character and identity goal. Don't set a 100 client goal. Set a character and identity goal over and over and over again. And this goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning of this podcast, is that everything in your life is a sum of your character, your skills, and your beliefs. And if you can shift your identity and understand what you are to your core and have that mirror moment, you can invert it, you can shift it and make that unconscious conscious and change anything in your life.
Yeah, I'm speechless, genuinely. And I'm genuinely speechless. Like, I think it's trying to see things like in this new way, like the way that goals are set, that we're told to do it. You know, I can scroll through Instagram and type in goals, and I could get told 100 different ways to do it, hacks and shortcuts and this and that and all this mumbo bumbo. But like fundamentally, like you said, it is about the identity. It is about who you think you are and who you need to start acting like to get to the outcome that you want. And there isn't necessarily like an intermediary. It is, you know, you aim for that end goal. Like I said, that's just that left column remains, and it's just I am X, Y, Z. Which, yeah, like I said, I think that's where I've got a bit of a funky relationship with the goals, is around like thinking they have to be a certain way, but like who said it had to be that complicated? Nothing you said is complicated. None of this is complicated. None of this is groundbreaking. Well, it is groundbreaking, but it's nothing like, you're not bending the laws of science. It's very, 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 very simple. And you remove that meaning, you remove all of this stuff, and you're kind of just left with a few words.
That is
like, it. The whole move to Greece thing. But what about, no, just move to Greece.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no, we can make it, you know, I could sit there and make it into something, but it's nothing to do with me. I'm irrelevant. I'm over here. It doesn't matter what, you know, my thoughts and thinking. So all I'm doing is taking away of that attention away from my goal, because my goal might be to move to Greece, for example. I'm too busy in your business thinking about what you're doing. This is what that is. Yeah, and you just, like I said, I think you remove that, and it's simplicity always wins, right?
Yeah, just imagine if every single person on this planet just acted on their highest instincts that they wanted to do in the moment, but also from their highest timeline, like from their highest self. Like if you start breaking the things down to like realizing that, because we always think there's only a short amount of time and an infinite amount of space, but there's only a short amount of space and an infinite amount of time. And the reason why we believe this is because we're told when we're younger that time equals money, but money equals time because you can buy it back. And time is infinite, right? It's a social construct. What is time? There is only this moment right now, Harvey, because everything is everywhere all at once. The past is in the past, the future isn't in the future, because when you think about it, you do it in the present moment. Even if we got a time machine and went back or forward, we'd be there in the present moment. Even if you look at my watch, you're not looking at time, you're just watching a piece of metal go around a piece of marble. So when you start to do this, you start to collapse time. And you start to realize that it's irrelevant. You start to realize that instead of worrying about what everyone else is doing and making it your business, it isn't your business in the first place. Because then you can then start to think, well, let's just say I let go of expectations, what people think, the model that I've been shown and how I'm meant to think and act and do. And I just operate from my highest timeline, my highest ambitions, my highest passions. Your life will change. But the reason why we can't do this is that I learned this from Debbie Ford in her book, The Dark Side of Light Chasers. When we're a child, our brain and our mind is like a giant hotel. And each room has a different emotion. But as we get older, our parents and friends and society say, don't go in that room. Don't be silly. Don't foul. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't be a geek. You know, don't be loud. Don't question things. Don't talk about money. Don't talk about your success. It's bragging. And then you get to 35 years old, and instead of living in this giant mansion hotel in your head, you live in a one-bed fucking bedsit.
Yeah.
And you forgot who you are, and you forgot how to express yourself. And you become conditioned by your environment when you can just live freely. Because if it ain't going to matter in 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. At the end of the day, we're all only going one way.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to matter anyways. And if you understand about DMT, well, when you do go, it's going to be the best experience of your life, and it's only going to get better. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's going to be no pain. There's going to be no sadness. You're just going to go and meet the machine elves, right? That's what's going to happen. You're just going to start getting higher and higher and higher. You're going to detach from everything that makes you miserable and sad and compares you to everything. And just going to go, I'm no longer my titles, Because you don't say, I am hand, I am this. You say, I'm Russell and I'm a coach, right? You detach from it all and you just go, I'm just connected to everything. So along this ride, you might as well make the most of it, because if you believe what I believe, if you don't do that, you've got to do it again. You go back to school.
You do.
You reset. Because if you don't pass the test, you don't graduate to the higher levels of growth.
One hell of a mic drop. And I think that's a good place to start wrapping things up. What's next on the agenda for you guys?
Yeah, honestly, it's just doing
Just
more,
living.
just doing more of what we're doing and maximizing it. It's like,
Life maxing.
it is
To the
life
fullest.
maxing. It's like, I'm not gonna start CrossFit. I'm just gonna keep doing the same weights and just make my arms bigger and my stomach more toned. And I'm gonna just. It's the same with everything else. I'm just gonna I just want to be a little bit more present each day. I want to enjoy the moment each day. I want to make a little bit more impact each day. Because I don't believe in maintenance. I just believe we're either on a continual growth or a death curve. Because you can't water a plant for 2 weeks and expect it to grow itself, right? And water itself. So there isn't these massive goals and outcomes anymore, and like all this pressure, but it's just like doing more of it and getting better at it. And just, look, what's harder, climbing a mountain or descending a mountain? Where the most deaths happen on Everest, up or down? Where the most like things happen? It's on the descent. The ascent is it. You ever climbed a tree? Oh, I fell out 40-foot out one, right? You climb a tree, it's easy because everything's in front of you. When you've got to go backwards, when you've got to have your ass facing everyone else, that's where the trouble is. So for anyone listening to this, keep fucking climbing. Even if you slow down and go a little step at a time, because the descent is 10 times harder than the ascent.
Incredible. Guys, thank you so much. I'm so glad we made this happen. It's been an absolute.
It's been a while.
Absolute.
Thank you.
And I've got to clean my brains up because they've all fallen out over the floor.
Thank you, brother. No, I appreciate you. I'm glad we got here finally. I really am appreciative. It's been good. And I hope we add some value to some people's lives.
Yeah. I think you've got something wrong if you can't take some value from that. So, yeah.
Love it.